Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are, it is right now. You're right here. My name is Manuel, and it's my pleasure to welcome you. This is the 58th episode of the show, and I have to congratulate you for making the best decision of the day to spend some time with me. Let's get started. So, I think you'd probably agree that Eric Swalwell has been having a terrible couple of weeks right now. For those who may have been living under a rock, Congressman Eric Swalwell, one of the great stars of the Democratic Party, was first forced to drop out of his bid for governor of California, and then the very next day forced to resign from Congress as a result of growing accusations of sexual impropriety, misconduct, and even that word that we don't want to say that rhymes with grape. And I don't say that lightly at all. These are very serious accusations. These are career-ending, even life-ending accusations. It's important to remember, of course, that Eric Swalwell is someone who for years has been a rising star in the Democratic Party, one of their loudest voices, one of their most aggressive attack dogs against President Donald Trump over the last decade. And not just that, he's also a man who happened to be at the front and center during the Kavanaugh hearings, loudly attacking Brett Kavanaugh over unverified accusations of sexual impropriety from decades earlier. This is a guy who championed the Me Too movement, a guy who championed #BelieveWomen. And now, here we are. He was forced out of the governor's race, no complete investigation, not even one close to being concluded, no affidavits that we know of, no indictments, no arrests, certainly no trial, and definitely no guilty verdict. And then, of course, the very next day, at the start of this week, he was forced to announce his resignation from Congress. And even after that, another accuser has now come forward. Again, no due process whatsoever thus far. But gone, booted, given the door. Now, let me be very clear, because I really don't want anyone to misquote me or to misunderstand me. I have no idea if Eric Swalwell is innocent or guilty. None. On a personal level, let me be very clear, I find him absolutely abhorrent, truly repugnant, in fact. One of the most partisan and hateful members of Congress I've seen in my lifetime. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So believe me when I say I am not defending the man, Eric Swalwell. But I do believe in being consistent. And I believe strongly, not just legally, but culturally, in the principle of due process. At the very least, we should have some evidence presented to the public before we form strong opinions, let alone obliterate a man and destroy his life like this. Because, let's be honest, he may very well be guilty. In fact, if you twisted my arm, I'd probably have to say it's more likely than not. And if that's the case, then yes, he should absolutely suffer the consequences. But getting this far ahead of the facts, that really concerns me. That worries me. And frankly, it feels pretty on brand for the Democrats because, in my view, what we're seeing from today's Democratic Party is not at all what could be called liberal with a small L. It's not even what I would call traditional progressivism. What we're seeing is something very dangerous, a mindset that resembles something quite authoritarian. The idea of fire first, justify later. The mentality that echoes what Lavrentiy Beria once said to Joseph Stalin, "Show me the man and I'll find you the crime." Meaning, if you want someone taken down, just point them out. The justification will come later. And I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Swalwell was targeted. Now, the question is, why? That's not entirely clear, but one strong theory is political math. The California governor's race was shaping up in such a way, with so many high-profile Democrats splitting the vote, that there was a real possibility the state's jungle primary system would produce 2 Republicans as the top finishers. And that's a nightmare scenario for Democrats in California. So Swalwell had to go. But the way they went about it, they didn't just remove him from the race. They went all in. They obliterated him. And when you go that far, it makes you wonder, did he make enemies behind the scenes clearly powerful enemies, because this doesn't feel like simple political cleanup. This feels quite personal. Now, let me be clear on this point. I'm not asking anyone to shed tears for Eric Swalwell. Not at all. He gave his allegiance to a political machine that ultimately devoured him. He fed the beast, and the beast turned on him. Keep that in mind. But that's not really the point. The point is what this represents. Because if this is how things are going to operate, if accusations alone, without due process, without evidence tested in the light, are enough to end careers and destroy lives, then this doesn't stop with politicians. This becomes cultural. This becomes the norm. And that's not a direction that looks good to me. So again, this is not about defending Eric Swalwell. It's about defending the principle, the foundation of our country. Because once we lose that, once we abandon due process, not just in courtrooms, but in our culture, we're stepping into something far more dangerous than partisan politics. And that's something every one of us should be paying attention to. All right, that's enough for today. We'll continue next time. And as always, be useful.